Okay, let's get started. My name is John Young of AppCaron. If you haven't heard about AppCaron, I hope you will hear more about us soon. So today's topic is about why the future is managing integrated application, not infrastructure. So I'm sure that like the things come to your mind is that is infrastructure no longer important? And the answer is no, and I'm going to explain why. So before getting into the topic, I want to talk a little bit about the 3 different cloud services, and then we can dive into why the infrastructure is no longer a major focus and application is. So infrastructure as a service, I'm sure that you know, is basically cloud computing that offered as a service. Right? The power of cloud computing is all the orchestration and automation that this complex infrastructure of networks and storage and computing and all those that can be all encapsulated and provisioned in a matter of minutes. Like the second cloud services that I want to talk about is software as a service. Right? SaaS, even though it's becoming mainstream, it's still mostly started with Salesforce.com with the success of CRM. Then you have platform as a service. PaaS is still a niche right now, but PaaS is mostly focused on the specific language or platform. So go back to the original question, why the infrastructure is no longer the focus. Right? It's not that it's not important, but the problem is being solved today, right? With the success of public and private cloud service. So when you look at it, the infrastructure side has really significantly improved on efficiency in the last few years. But the application side has not really caught up, right? The reason why I introduced SaaS and PaaS early on is that PaaS and SaaS are still point solutions, right? If you need a CRM solution, you need HR packages or accounting packages, then it's fine. But not all enterprise environment is like that, right? A typical enterprise environment is a lot more complex than a simple stack. So this is an illustration of a typical enterprise application environment, and this example is for an e-commerce company, right? That you have the e-commerce stack, you have your Java stack that is your business logic, maybe that's your product catalog, your price database, and so on. And you have your Oracle ERP, right, for your backend. And you also interface with many external components, right? Your credit card payment, your supply chain, like shipping and so on. So when you look at this complex environment, how is today's platform able to capture that? I don't think there's a single platform that you can capture this complex environment, right? So this is just an illustration of a production environment. But if you think about this environment also needs to be replicated to a testing development environment, then you have many comments, right? So you can imagine the setup of this environment is very complex. So this is just an illustration of how many steps, right, to create this environment. The first step, of course, is deploying the servers, right? Deploying the server is probably the easiest, right? If you use cloud services, you just either pick from a template and you swipe your credit card and you can provision many instances. But you need to start installing application, right? That's not so easy, but it's really time consuming and tedious, but it's not difficult, right? I mean, you can get help and install, right? But when you look at it, there are so many of them, right? There's a lot of them need to install in sequence. Now, after you install the application, you have to configure them and make them all work together. That's a headache, right? So a simple example is that if you use Hibernate to talk to a database, right? You need to set up the config so that you have the correct database hosting and the port number, right? Those all need to be in sync on both sides. And when you look at there are many applications talking to many applications, I mean, this becomes very complex, right? And we're not only talking about one environment. When you need to create additional environment, the complexity duplicates, right? So So as we can see, even though there are only 3 simple steps, right, to create this whole environment, but it's very complex. The complexity is that there are many applications that need to talk to each other, and they're all interrelated, and they all need to work together to make it work. And creating multiple of those environments will take a lot of time, and there's no quick way to get them created today. So that's why I think the future is integrated application with mobility, right? So what is integrated application, right? The same example before, right? The integrated application is when all the applications work together. I call that a workload, right? That deep understanding of you can manage from a central console of all these applications, and you can define who should talk to what. So you can see that all the entire application stack holistically together, right? To extend that even further, right? Besides capturing it, you should make, or we should make those configuration settings actionable, right? So if you can, let's say, tag this configuration setting to say always follow the new target, right? Then when you clone this the hypername, then you know that you have a new database target. Then you automatically put in the new database server for you, right? So if you have a concept of those relationships, then your environment can be recreated or create a new one, and everything should be operational. That's the mobility that I'm talking about, right? That somewhere centrally able to capture all the applications and all the configuration settings and how all of them interrelated to each other, right? Then once you have that, when you clone the entire workload, when the target workload is created, then the whole environment should be up and running, right? It sounds pretty simple, right? So why not everybody is doing it? So I think the one key point is that if you install application individually and configure them individually, then you will never achieve that, right? You need to have a central way of installing this application, right? So that you can also capture the configuration settings, right? Once you capture the configuration setting, then you can even have, the actionable attribute to it, right? So that when you do that, you basically have a CMDB, right, with all the configuration setting elements and how they should act in different operations. Then the whole environment is very different. So there are a lot of benefits to this, right, of having a central way of installing application and centralize the configuration and relationship among all these application and configuration settings, right? So in the same example as before, right, that you go through this application lifecycle where you have created a master environment that you need to copy that multiple times for development purposes or testing purposes, right? You don't need to create this even from templates anymore. You can just clone them multiple times, right? So there are a lot of benefits that if you look at this application lifecycle that we talked about. So let's say if 30%, 40% of the effort is in managing this workload, right, these applications, then this technology can, or this capability can reduce, right, your management overhead by at least 75%, right? That's a huge saving. But the effort is only one thing, right? But the more important is that, okay, it really helps you accelerate the application time to market, right? That's the most important thing, right? I think that really outweighs even the effort side. So that's what AppCarrot is about, right? We focus on accelerating application time to market. So I hope if you have some interest, you can stop by our booth at 621, or you can get a free trial. Go to trial@appcarrot.com or send me an email and we can share more.